So, I just played Mighty No.9. Better watch out, mateys, cause there be spoilers ahead. Aye, you've been warned. So, let me give you a little backstory. A while back, about a year ago or something, I had seen a trailer of the game posted up on YouTube. I watched it and thought it looked like a weird, futuristic version of Mega Man, but I also thought it looked a little cool. This was all before I was aware that the game was being developed by one of the head developers of Mega Man, Inafune. Anyway, fast forward about a year, I had no clue what the release date was because I had just completely stopped thinking about it altogether. A few days before its release, which I still had no idea about, IGN had posted up a review. I had noticed it was a review of Mighty No.9 and felt obligated to check it out. I have never heard IGN talk so much crap about a game before in my life. At first I thought they just had some kind of beef with the developers or something, so I just didn't think much of it. Fast forward again about 2 days and hot damn, there's Let's Plays and reviews going up left and right. I had to check the PS store and sure enough there it was, chilling for 20 bucks. Considering that day I had traded in a ton of games and had the extra money left, I decided to pick up the game myself regardless of the opinions of others. I'm gonna review it from my perspective. Now, I'm not very in-depth when it comes to explanations like these, and I also didn't play enough Mega Man to compare the two games. I'm just gonna explain my personal experience for each category. So let's go. Let's start with the visuals. Not that the graphics were terrible or anything, but it's definitely not a current generation looking game. It would have fit better at most a generation ago, like early PS3 or Xbox 360. I mean, right from the get-go, you can see fire spread across the city somewhat, and it looks kind of stupid. Otherwise, the majority of the game has a last generation cartoony look, including the characters, the bosses, the enemies, and so on. But I'm not going to say it was terrible looking. In fact, I didn't really mind it at all. It was straightforward and kind of what I'd expect from an indie. It could have been a lot worse. Also, side note, I've never really had any issues with the frame rate, so I have no clue what everyone's talking about. So, whatever on that, I guess. Next up, the audio. To be honest, since I streamed the majority of the game when I played it, and my streaming equipment really isn't up to par, I didn't get to hear much of the music, although I didn't hate the voice acting or anything like that. As a matter of fact, I'd say everyone did a pretty bang-up job with it. As far as music, besides the intro song, the only other songs I heard was some of the rapping from the credits. Seriously, what was that? Anyway, I listened to a little more of the music later on, and nothing was crazy memorable. If they were to ever release a sequel, I'd just recommend less rapping. Seriously guys, you should terminate whoever thought that was going to be a good idea. Oh my god. Characters. Beck is the Mega Man of this game. He was a pretty straightforward kid robot that followed instructions and just wanted to save his friends. The doctors and the president were pretty straightforward done before characters, except for Dr. White, who I suspected as suspicious from the beginning, but whatever. But what did stand out was some of the boss bots. I like that they had personality. I felt that characters such as Call, Countershade, Battalion, or even Brandish, the Zero stand-in, were pretty creative. They all had personality, and that made them differ quite a bit from the rest of the cast, and I feel like we didn't get enough of them, honestly. Story. Pretty bland and straightforward. Didn't pay much attention to it. Robots are on the rampage? Stop them. Stop them? Cool. Hell, even the opening cutscene seemed a little lazy to me. When it started up, it was just a picture opening up with a short story about a battle tournament. To be honest, I found myself skipping a majority of the cutscenes because I didn't feel they were important enough to be bothered with. But hey, maybe that's just me. I got the main idea of the story, but it just seemed like useless banter outside of stages. Though one interesting part seemed to be the DLC, which I thought was pretty tight. And you get to play as Ray, an unidentified robot who's after Dr. White for unknown reasons, which I thought was pretty interesting. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't finished it because it's hard as hell. Whatever the case, I thought it was straightforward and pretty easy to understand, but the ending was not really satisfying, especially since Beck worked his ass off to save this little robot chick who doesn't say a goddamn word. I felt like we should have at least gotten a chance to play as her, at least, but hey, what are you gonna do? Gameplay. Now, this is a biggie. Remember, our experiences may differ due to the fact that you may have played Mega Man, or you may just be better than me, or whatever. Personally, I thought the fast-paced shooting and weird but strange new mechanic of dashing and absorbing weakened enemies for points was actually pretty entertaining. It also brought back the mechanic of defeating bosses and absorbing abilities, which was interesting but kind of a blast. Though most levels and bosses didn't really require too much strategy, they did, however, require somewhat of a fast reaction time to dodge attacks or go on the offensive. Speaking of levels, some of the level designs were god-awful. They were extremely and frustratingly dumb. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but last level and final boss, I'm looking at you. Rating. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4.5. It was an alright experience, but it's most likely that I'm never playing it again, solely because there's no real replayability besides the DLC and the non-functional online mode. Final opinion. After doing a lot of research on the development process of this game and all the problems with it regarding system startup issues and promises not being fulfilled, I now finally understand why everyone hates this game so much. And no, I didn't absolutely hate the game. I can understand where everyone's coming from. This game started on Kickstarter and made way more than they even needed. What they produced was way less than everyone expected, even though they had the money to go above and beyond the actual final product. Being the quote-unquote spiritual successor to Mega Man, people expected a lot better and, let's be real, didn't live up to what it was expected to be at all. They clearly had the time and money to be what could have been one of the sickest reboots of all time, and they pretty much squandered it. Now, I personally believe that I did get enough for what I paid for, even though it was nothing great S+. For $20, I wouldn't say that it was at all a terrible indie. Far from it. Regardless of whatever I did seem to complain about, I still had a pretty alright time with it. But anyway, that does it for my first ever review on a game, and the first episode of the first season of So I Just Played. Sorry if it wasn't very fleshed out or descriptive enough for you, but I'm no professional reviewer. I'm just giving my simple opinion on the game. I'd like to keep the series short and sweet and to the point. Anyway, make sure to sub for more episodes, and don't ever hesitate to give me your opinion on the game in the comment section below. I'll probably be down there with you to talk about it. Anyway, thanks guys. Take care for me.